So good Saturday morning to you guys. I am Dr. Marilyn Carroll, and welcome to BW Unfiltered or Black Woman Unfiltered. I like the acronym BW because that is like more powerful, a little bit more to me. But anyway, I am so excited. I'm just so excited. We have our guest today, Nicole, and I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because I want to make sure I talk about Nicole in the best light. And so I'm just so excited. I can hardly talk, guys. So this is Dr. Nicole Smith here with me today. She's an innovative CEO and founder of NK Enterprise Consulting, LLC. With unrivaled expertise in overcoming cultural workplace differences, isn't this on point, guys? She guides organizations to reach their utmost potential. Love it. Countless Fortune 500 companies have benefited from her transformative guidance, while community organizations have witnessed her positive, guys, impact. With over two decades in the hospitality industry, Dr. King Smith's passion for exceptional customer service sets her apart. As an award-winning professional, her dynamic speaking topics on leadership, equity, and inclusion resonate internationally, leaving audience captivated and up to date on her current solutions and trends in the workplace. So how wonderful. We're so blessed to have Dr. King Smith with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here, everybody. Happy Saturday.
So, Dr. Nicole, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and the importance of it that you see, and the innovative, just a few tidbit solutions on the innovative things that you've seen as we get ready to start our leadership podcast today on Black women in leadership and helping them to understand barriers. And some things are, as we were talking before we started recording, a lot of things are women against women or Black women against, but we want to resolve this. We want to get these things out of the way because power is in the coupling of understanding of talent, skills, knowledge, and abilities together. And so the more we can do that. So I want to welcome you all to today's episode. And as we dive into crucial conversations, and that's what Dr. Nicole and I are about to have, about unique competencies of Black women in leadership roles and how these qualities can significantly transform organizations. We're not only here to discuss handouts, but to highlight inherent values. Now, our goal is to shift the narrative and recognize the strengths and the contributions that Black women bring to the table, reshaping how they are perceived and integrated into leadership positions within various sectors. So, Doctor, let's get us started. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, again, thank you for having me on the show. Ooh, we may have to do a part two because there's so much to unpack in what you just said, and you're so spot on. And how I was introduced into this space was when I was at the Strayer University. I was a Learning Resource Center manager, and part of that role was career services. And one thing that I would notice is a lot of students from different age groups would come in, and of course, they're seeking employment opportunities, and being on a lot of workforce committees, and then being on the Tampa Bay Diversity Council as the education co-chair. What I realized in that moment is organizations are saying they're struggling with finding the right fit with the right employees. And then the students were struggling, saying they were struggling with finding the right organization. And I was just sitting here like, well, I know I have a handful of students over here that are amazing. And then I know I have a handful of great organizations over here. And I'm like, where's the disconnect? Where are people not able to get opportunities? And of course, the first thing that we start having conversations with is, racial and ethnic backgrounds and how that plays a role. But I also started unpacking a lot of other things as well as, not only just gender, but also age. And so that's what led me to really go down the path of looking at like generational diversity and how that plays a role in how we navigate the workplace. And that's what really ignited my passion to pursue diversity, equity, and inclusion in that particular space. But as anything, as you start going down that path, you start seeing a lot of other things start coming into play. And so part of that is being a woman of color, a Black woman in organizations. Now, once you get in, how do you navigate the culture? So as you were talking, it's almost like for me, it was like a braid, like, okay, it's all intertwined of, you have the organizational culture, you have what happens within the organizational culture, and then you have the individual trying to navigate all these spaces. And a lot of times what I'm finding is people are just being challenged because for the first time ever in the history of the United States, we have the most diverse workforce we've ever had. From 4 going on 5 generations working together, from women showing up in places and spaces where no one ever thought it was mostly male dominated, but now like STEM careers, as CEOs, as entrepreneurs, and they're showing up a lot younger. So, and now with all of this technology and advanced technology, they're not just showing up in statistics within the United States, but we're showing up globally all around the world. So at the end of the day, there's a whole movement taking place and culturally shifting, but also statistically shifting, demographically shifting. And we have to change our mindset and how we look at individuals, how we connect and build relationships, how we build rapport. And at the end of the day, we got to check ourselves with our own biases because those generational um toxic traits that have been passed down from generation to generation. Part of it is generational knowledge that we need for sure, but some of it also, that generational knowledge was passed down through other people's toxic situations. And so we have to decipher and filter what is continuously holding us back and what can we let go because it's a new age, a new era, and new opportunities.
Oh, awesome, awesome. And I said that to people and they were like, Marilyn, because people will come to me as an executive coach and they'll say, Marilyn, we don't know what to do. And a lot of times I may be the only person of color. Sometimes I'm the only woman in the group. And they're like, we don't know what to do. We brought this person in, they're highly skilled. They have all these leadership abilities and knowledge, but just trying to get them acclimated to the group has been quite a challenge. So today's topic, I wanted to talk about the pedigree so that people could understand the Black woman pedigree a little bit more. And the people might be saying, well, what is she talking about pedigree? Well, when I talk about pedigree, I'm talking about, like you just talked about, the how we were brought up, the things put into our mind, how we perceive things. Um, I think Black women have long been pillars of strength and innovation. We've had to be. We had to know how to do things with just very little, from in the home to outside the home to going on jobs, various things that we're doing. So when you get a woman like that, she needs to be challenged to things that she can see and bringing her strengths to the table, more so to speak. So our goal, and you hit on it great, is to switch the narrative and recognize the strengths and contributions that a lot of women, and more specifically Black women, do in reshaping how they are perceived and integrated into leadership positions within various sectors. So our first goal was, as I stated earlier, these leaders Black women leaders tend to blend empathetic leadership and innovative problem solving. Empathetic because we were trained to be empathetic. We had to be empathetic. And it's very crucial for us today in this fast-paced and diverse working environment to be empathetic. this morning when I get up about 4:30 every morning, and I got an email from Cambridge, one of the professors at Cambridge out of Europe. And I do a lot of various things with people all over the world. As you stated, we're all over the place. And I find that a lot of their reading, a lot of their research is, spot on. Not put anybody in America down. I'm not saying that. But I just find that being a researcher, our background in research really helps in those who are still in that research mode and really combing through the data. And then I thought about, based on my reading from him, some of the things with Rosalind Brewer, who's was the current CEO of Walgreens Boots Alliance, and the former COO of Starbucks, and her leadership style marked by a deep understanding of her consumer needs, and her commitment to diversity and inclusion, and how she showcased the strengths of a typical Black woman in a high executive role. Her practical and transformative strategies really fostered an environment to me of where creativity and inclusivity thrive. What are your thoughts? Do you know anything about some of the other CEOs that you may have seen? I think we have a list of those that we're going to talk about in our article this week. So what are your thoughts?
So, you bring up a great point, and um, I can tell you through my experience of also like coaching and consulting with CEOs, the biggest advantage, especially for Black women, is one thing that you brought up is really important. We were taught to navigate our own individual cultures, our community cultures, but then we were forced to learn other cultures, corporate cultures, um, to be able to fit in, almost as if it's a survival mechanism. And the best way I can explain it, it's almost like learning multiple languages. And the advantage is you're able to connect with more people or be able to connect people together because you have those advantages of understanding what it means to navigate different cultures. Now, I see people all over social media talk about code switching. So let me let me explain to you. That's not necessarily what I'm referencing, but at the end of the day, it truly is about understanding how to navigate different communities of people. And to be a CEO, like the CEOs you just mentioned, in those spaces, one of the things that they've really had to conquer is earning the respect in that space, being able to show up, and being able to be trusted. So it's almost like that executive presence, but the executive presence for Black women in those positions look and feel a little bit different because they have to be they have to be strong and they show up in a very strong demeanor, but they're still not losing that feminine essence in that space either.
Now,
And I
I'm seconding that because I think I'm sorry, but that's very important because it's executive presence and not losing that feminine essence. I think that's important because a lot of times when we take these assessments, we may sound more like a male from the assessment instead of that female component. We're trying to say we're not, sometimes we try to fit in too much into the box
right.
and leave behind that female essence. So great, but thanks. Carry on.
Yeah, so and so to complement what you just said, it is important because in order to gain people's trust, you have to make them feel comfortable. And if you come too aggressive and not assertive, then you kind of turn people off. So it's kind of hard to kind of break down the ingredients, if you will. But at the end of the day, when you start looking at all of these CEOs that are going to be coming up in your next article, and you start looking at the commonalities you'll see that their character traits are very similar in how they've had to navigate. And then I'll
Yeah.
just kind of reverse that a little bit because on one of the, so I'm a certified cultural strategist, and one of the projects that I was working on with one of the teams, we do a archetype assessment. And one of the archetype assessments came back that majority of the groups were considered heroes. Now, just to quickly break that down, a hero is someone that wants to see things through, want to see it done well. And so when I received the phone call, they were trying to explain to me that there was conflict because all of these women kept stepping on each other's toes. And when we actually did the assessment, part of the assessment is allowing them to tell their story of how they have cultivated their individual culture. And the Black woman in the group, she said, I was part of the first schools to be desegregated in this county. She said, so
Mm.
my whole life, I have had to fight or show up 10 times stronger because of what I've had to navigate as I was a young child growing all the way up into being in the workplace. And she also said she was the first woman of color to accomplish a lot of other things. And hearing that made other people in the room start picking up on where they've had to show up and fight. So there's about 4 or 5 women sharing their stories, and because I don't want to take up too much time, but what the outcome of that is because they've always had to navigate from a place of strength and power, when it came to the workplace, if deadlines and projects were due, they showed up as heroes. They wanted to get it done because that's how they are. They're very result driven. So if someone, for
My
example, said that, hey, this is due Friday and Thursday comes and they don't see progress, they would just take it, run with it, and make it happen. And then the conflict would be, well, I said I would get it done Friday and you did it on Thursday. And but what they were finding is they really didn't necessarily know how to define and respect each other's boundaries, and that's what we were able to do. But at the end of the day, to what you're saying, it's about how you show up in understanding why women are showing up the way they are in the workplace. There's a reason why they have the character traits. And if you start thinking about how women even entered the workforce, the first reason why they entered the workforce is because of the war, and all the men had to go fight in the war. And then when they came back, it was like, well, we're back. You can go back home and raise the kids, take care of the household. And women were like, wait a minute, like I like kind of doing these things. And then, as we start looking at history and we start looking at how women have had to enter the workforce, navigate the workforce, and the laws and things that have been integrated to help support us, and fast forward to today, the reality of it is we show up with an energy of we have to fight, we have to prove ourselves, we have to overcome adversity, we have to be resilient. And especially Black women, we have to do that in multiple cultures in order to be able to get ahead either in our individual cultures, our community cultures, or our workplace cultures.
Excellent. And those are great examples, Dr. Nicole, of how the impact Black women leaders have on their organizations, because they have to be innovative. The agility they have to have, the sustained success, the hero mentality, the proving that they're worthy of the cause and taking on. You don't sit back. And I can identify a lot of as to what you were saying. I do it. I do it all the time. And I think sometimes in my past, I tick people off because I don't have time to wait until you say you're going to get something done. I have to move forward because I have so much on my plate. And as many women do, we have a lot of things on our plate, family, work, and in my case, a business. I got to move forward. I don't have time to wait on you to have 15 different meetings to come up with the same idea that may not be. And yes, I value teamwork. I really do. So sometimes we have to put people in that space where they can move forward and do it. And I recall having a conversation at in order to break a myth or addressing a bias the biases that we see in these particular scenarios, I had a conversation with somebody and they said, why are you not in leadership over at this company teaching? And I was like, well, I can lead from the bottom. What do you mean you can lead from the bottom? I can lead from the bottom because I know my place. I know my strengths. I know what I can contribute. If you need something done, I'll get that done and I'll move on. My leadership is somewhere else, is being in the forefront. But here I can lead from behind. And so it's knowing where you need to be in your leadership abilities. And I find that quite ironic. And if we can help people break those myths by seeing for themselves, where do I belong with this organization? How can I help them? How can I help myself? And every position is not our position. Every position at the top is not necessarily our position. Leadership, yes, we have it, but where do we need to lead from? So
Oh, you bring
we
up
talked.
such a good point. Can I just speak
Go
to
ahead.
something right quick? Because you just
Yes,
struck
go
a
ahead.
chord with me that was so amazing. Um, I always like to say there's a difference between taking lead and leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that may be in leadership positions that feel like all they have to do is lead, but they're not necessarily good qualities of leadership. And I just tell people all the time, like, a leadership means you know how to let other people, you know how to empower the right people to take lead. You don't always have to be the line leader and then force everyone to follow you. And to your point, when you have to know what positions are for you. So I hear a lot of times, especially from white males who are CEOs, well, I'm really trying to bring women of color and Black women up the ranks, and I really want them to, get in some of these C-suite positions, but they're not applying. And when you said you have to know what position is right for you, I always come back and I said, well, is the culture at that level welcoming? Like, it's one thing
Did
to
that?
have a person in the seat that is a person of color, but are you gonna make that woman feel welcome to where her values, her intellect, her skill set, her strategic thoughts, her innovative ideas, are they gonna be welcomed or are they gonna be oppressed? Because at the end of the day, just because you pull out a chair and say we want you at the table doesn't mean you're gonna welcome her with open arms and everything that she can bring to the opportunity, the position, the projects, the strategic planning, and everything that goes into that. And that makes them kind of take a step back. I'm like, oh, but I didn't think about it that way. And I'm like, there's, mental health, all of those things we have to navigate. And because the word sustainability seems to be such a hot topic in our careers, we have to create a sustainability plan for our mental health, protect our peace, our families.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's toxic in the workplace, chances are we're bringing that energy in our homes with our spouses and our kids, and they recognize those things. And that goes back to some of those generational cycles that we have to break, where people are like, oh, well, I don't understand why, when it comes to succession planning or raising kids, like why my children don't want to navigate this career space or navigate this. And because you have to understand, people have sat back and watched you overcome adversity but also suffer at the same time, and they connect with those emotions, and so they don't want to put themselves in that position. There's another way, and they don't have to suppress themselves to that level. They're not gonna do it. They're not gonna go that
Excellent,
route.
excellent point. I think that's why we see more Black women who become entrepreneurs versus staying at an organization where they don't feel welcome. And that's hurting both the organization and sometimes the women, because all of us can't be entrepreneurs either.
No.
It takes a lot. It takes capital. It takes another skill set that many of us have not even began to develop because we haven't been able to, one is connections, and we haven't been able to do a great job of making connections outside of our race. We did a segment about 2 weeks ago on the whole sorority and how sororities can help a lot of these people do a better job by connecting the right way and putting those resources in the right buckets to build companies, to build something like Harvard has built, where they have this fun that they don't care if people don't come to school for them for a while. They have so much money because they've invested it and reinvested and reinvested. And we are so smart. We know a lot of things, but we got to put these things together. So as we bring our show to a close today, we have some call to actions for organizations.
I'm like,
We
it's already to a close. The only I just want to say
I
one
know,
last
I
thing.
would only keep you 30 minutes.
Well, I'm just gonna
You're
say
gonna
to
come back. You're gonna have to come back.
we're gonna have to come back because this you struck a whole chord with me because I've also helped businesses get their MBE certifications and help them understand the importance of being a minority woman business owner and how to navigate that space. And yeah, I'm coming back. We have
Yeah,
a
she is.
whole lot more
Listen,
to
Nicole is
uncover.
coming
Go
back.
ahead.
You're gonna see her a lot on this show. I got the feeling. I didn't know. I mean, when I read her bio and stuff on LinkedIn, I was so impressed. And I was like, this woman is just like me. And I'm looking for people that's like me, that's moving forward, that have that energy to move, to build something incredible. Because I know it can be done. I don't want to just be talking about something. I want to be the results of
Let's
that.
do it. Let's do
Yes.
it.
So in this segment, we outline clear, actionable steps for some organizations that could be committed to harnessing the strengths of Black women in leadership positions. And we talked about how organizations can actively value and integrate these individuals, their skills into their leadership roles and structures. We implement a fair evaluation process. We didn't kind of dive into that, but we asked individuals to dive into who am I, where am I, and what role would be best for me. And then as CEOs of company, they need to do the same thing in organizing that and make the people feel comfortable in their space, helping them to feel comfortable knowing that they've already stepped outside of the zone so many times just to get to where they are, that they need more like a sponsor or something when they get to these roles. And for me, everybody needs a coach. Once they get to a certain level, they need an executive coach to help them peruse the organizational landscape, to have that outside person to talk to. So if you don't have one, I do recommend it. Yes, I'm into this thing. I'm so into career coaches because the space we're trying to get through is hard by yourself, guys. It is. And so
The
this whole
village
career process,
takes a village.
it takes a village. Exactly. And so these processes, we think, could also focus on performance and impact rather than conformity and traditional leadership models that may not reflect diverse leaders' strengths. Developing mentorship and development programs, as I just stated, organizations should probably establish robust mentorship and professional development programs along with executive coaching that's tailored to preparing Black women for those leadership roles. These programs could provide access to networks, resources. I mean, when I say networks, not just go to this networking meeting over here.
No, it's about strategic networking. And I have a whole, like everything you're talking about, I do organizational audits for their culture. So
Mhm.
I know we didn't get an opportunity to talk about that, but I can go in and do a culture audit to see if your company is as welcoming as you say it is. And then to your point, like, yeah, you definitely need some type of professional leadership and mentorship and sponsorships as well. I agree with you 100%.
Nicole, I'm gonna come back to you because we got so much, girl. We got so much talk. I'm had to come to Tampa and visit with you. I'm so serious. I have a company. I built a company called Culture Vibe, and this company has a cultural assessment as well. And with that assessment, we are linking individuals with the right companies, not just when you apply for a job, but you apply for a job for the company that is going to be best for you culturally, and not just about race and things of that nature. We're talking about the organizational dynamics, that culture within there as well. So Nicole,
Oh,
this
yeah.
God
There's
don't make mistakes. God don't
no.
make mistakes, Nicole. And this was on target. All right.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So anyway, so Black women within organizations include succession planning that considers diverse talent pipelines, ensuring Black women are prepared and considered for top leadership roles when they become available. But you have to prepare people for that before the roles become available. So it's like succession planning, but internal. And we should be doing it anyway at our organizations, preparing ourselves for what's next. So, in conclusion, guys, today's discussion has highlighted Black women essentials for the roles in leadership and the unique value we bring to the organization's success. And I want to say this, yeah, even though we're talking about Black women, because for me, I was asked to focus on that. I talk about all women because my family is so diverse. We have a diverse family. And so I see things from all sides all the time. And so I just can't say just Black women. My grandbaby, she'll probably pass as a white person. So I got to be prepared for her too, and helping her with things that she has to deal with because she's going to see life from different various viewpoints.
Well, that's a whole nother
So,
subject because I'm interracial. My mom is Caucasian, my dad's African American, and
girl, oh my
that's a
gosh. So,
whole culture within itself. Yeah. I'm gonna let you close this podcast, or everybody's gonna be like, "What you keep saying to a close?" So I will be back. There's so much to talk about. You keep just this is
yes, we are on it. We're on it. So as we close the episode, guys, let's remember that fostering a truly inclusive environment that values and utilizes the talents of all people is
Absolutely.
fundamental to building resilient and innovative organizations. The future of successful businesses really hinges on its ability to embrace a diverse array of talent and turn it into the greatest asset they can have. So
Absolutely.
let this be a call to action for all organizations to commit to this transformation in words and through deliberate, sustained effort. Thank you guys for joining us on the show today. We so appreciate you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
great day.
Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, for being our guest. Oh, girl, I thank you and welcome to my friendship circle.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I'm so excited.
So I am going to